Hi, and welcome back to the Jaywalking Show. Today's episode is very special. It's special because, of course, I've changed my set. The previous set was very chaotic. This episode is with Aarti Kukreja. She has an amazing podcast which I listen to a lot when I have chaotic thoughts, I have negative thoughts. I listen to that a lot. She is also a very successful entrepreneur. She runs and owns Blue Box Consulting, Wanderlust with Yogini, and the podcast which I mentioned before, Mindfulness with Yogini. Here we are mostly going to be talking about mindfulness and affirmations, self talk, gratitude, and how to become a whole person basically. So, Aarti, was there something that I left out in your introduction?
No, that was perfect. I do don many hats. Two of them are very new, which is the Wanderlust with Yogini travel blog and the Mindfulness with Yogini podcast. I think you did leave out that I am a certified mindfulness coach, and that's how I got into this whole business. And I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. So, you almost covered my first question, which was how did you get into mindfulness? How did you find your calling into being a yogini?
I think, all of us usually take a very drastic step in our life when we reach a very extreme point. And for me, that was a breakup about 5 years ago or so. And that kind of left my egoic self to shatters. And that is when I decided to take a very close and honest look at myself. And I started to read, listen, and learn a lot about what mindfulness is and how I could become a more holistic, whole person, like you said earlier.
Correct.
And that's how my journey began as a yogini.
Beautiful. I wish I had a breaking point like that in my life because I'm still struggling with mindfulness, with self talk, because I have negative thoughts all the time. And say, for example, something is not working out in my life, something is not working out in my work life, for example. I always have these negative thoughts. And I recently came across this concept called self talk, positive self talk. Could you explain that to our viewers in simple words, which beginners can understand, basically?
So, I mean, I love the fact that firstly, you wish that you had a breaking point. I have to be very honest. I hope people don't have to go through very extreme suffering
Correct.
to learn this. And we don't have to. We can identify it in today's world, especially much faster. Like you've already realized that you don't have any breaking point, but you know you're having negative thoughts and you know you want to have positive
Correct.
thoughts. So that's really wonderful, firstly. The reason you and everybody else does have, I would say, negative thoughts is because there are two of us living inside. One is who you really are, and the other one is basically your inner voice. Your inner voice is four types. The first one is a perfectionist, which is mine go to. The second one is a worrier who worries a lot. Third one is a victim, is always thinking they are the victim of their situations. And the last one is a critic. And I'm guessing yours is a critic.
Mine is a critic, yeah.
Because there's so much negative, criticism happening inside you. So self-talk is basically overriding these voices in your mind. Quintessentially, the first way to identify it is to disassociate yourself with it. Firstly, recognize this is not me. This is the inner voice. Right? So the best way to do it is to name it something else altogether. So my inner voice, the perfectionist, is called Sheila. And
Interesting.
so when Sheila starts talking to me about how I am not good enough, I firstly recognize that it's her and it's not my talk. I'm giving my best. I'm trying my best every single day. I'm waking up as motivated as possible, but I'm still being put down by my inner voice. So first, identify that it's, and call it something else, Ramesh or Mark or whatever you want to. And second one is start paying attention when they start talking. What was the trigger that happened that they started talking to you? Was it because you didn't give 100% in the gym today? Was it because you didn't finish your presentation on time? Was it because your mother nagged you once again about cleaning your room? And that's when these external triggers happen and they start chattering in your mind. It's called the monkey mind or the chatter mind, right? And identify that. Oh, so now you know it's Sheila talking, right?
Interesting.
First, second, then just hear them out. Don't judge them because you don't want two people judging inside. They're already judging you. Now you're also going to be judging. So there'll be two judgmental voices in your head. Avoid doing that. Just listen to them and then catch them in the act. Oh, now it's Sheila talking. It's not me talking. And the third one is to make sure that you rationalize whether what we are saying is true or not. Just because you didn't give 100% in the gym doesn't mean you're not going to be fit. Just because you didn't finish your presentation on time doesn't mean your whole life is over, your career is over, you're going to be fired from your job. So I think rationalize that what they are saying, usually it's too exaggerated and embellished. In fact, sometimes it's not true in any way. It's just pure stories and lies. And that's how you can start identifying your self-talk. Because you've distinguished now that this person is monkey mind chattering and my self-talk is very different. And then you can use your self-talk to override theirs and have a more positive and compassionate and loving discussion with yourself.
Interesting. Keeping that point in mind, I think I'll name my inner voice, my inner critic, Kanye West.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's a start. We've talked about it in your introduction to mindfulness.
Yeah.
Mindfulness makes a person whole, am I right?
Not technically. I can explain what mindfulness is if that helps you.
Correct, I was going there. So, what is mindfulness? Because I've been struggling with the meaning of it.
Yeah.
What is mindfulness?
Wow. So the first thing is mindfulness is so subjective that all the different psychologists, scientists, neurologists, they're all terming and naming it very differently. But if I have to explain what I understand what mindfulness is, there are three stages to mindfulness. The first one is focused attention or concentration, which you can very easily use meditation as a tool for, right? Where you simply focus on your breath or the sounds around you or any physical sensations in your body. And there's enough literature and videos and audios all over the internet to help you meditate. So we'll not get into that.
Correct.
But that's the first time. The second one is open awareness or open monitoring, which is also called awareness, which means now don't just focus on your breath or the sounds or the physical sensations, but everything in your vicinity and see it exactly the way that it is and be fully aware about it. And the third one is acceptance and non-judgment, which means just accept everything the way that it is without this urge or this irritating feeling to want to change it or wanting to fix it or make it better or remove it from your environment. Just accept it the way that it is. And I think mindfulness is all of these three things. It's quintessentially very important for us if we are able to be mindful in every single activity to live a more healthier, more content, more joyful and more peaceful life. So that's what mindfulness is.
Interesting. So it basically does not make a human whole, it makes the human live his life better.
Absolutely.
To have a positive outlook to everything else.
Absolutely. I think if I have to put it in one word, it is living each single moment. Just completely, entirely dedicated, focused attention in that moment. Living each moment to the fullest without being worried about what happened just now, what did she say to me, why did the driver not treat me well, why did my mama yell at me, why did I, have a nagging boss standing on top of me, and not predicting the future, which is what the brain does. The brain is a deduction machine, it's an analytical machine that's always trying to predict the future. So thinking, does this mean that my boss will fire me? Does this mean that my mom's not going to talk to me? Does this mean that I'm not good enough? So just live in this present moment because that's all that we really have. Who knows what's going to happen next moment?
Interesting. I'm for sure betting on this that this podcast episode might change my life. But to change this life, I need something more because, see, right now I'm handling this podcast. I'm a student. I'm working on 3 different things. I'm already a busy man. How do I introduce mindfulness or inculcate mindfulness into my routine, into my daily habit, so to say?
So I think while there are various different ways of approaching how to live a mindful life, It's extremely important to understand priorities and values of your life and what you are looking for, so that you can feel fulfilled by doing these activities to begin with. It shouldn't become a chore.
Okay.
Right? So I approach this physically, mentally, and emotionally, and that takes care of a large part of your life. If you're also a spiritual person, then you could add that to the mix as well. But I think that would take a much longer, a much more intense and engaged process. So I think you could just focus on physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you should be fine. Now, how should you invest physically? I've done an exclusive episode on investing in yourself as in your physical body, and I truly believe that what did you come onto this planet Earth with? Nothing but your physical body.
Correct.
Even your brain, your mindsets, your perspectives, your beliefs, nothing was developed until you came to this planet, became an absorbing sponge in the younger years, and then acquired everything. So while you only came with this is the only tool you truly have on this planet that helps you do everything you want to do and protects you and helps you survive through all of your life. So that's the most important thing that you need to take care of to begin with, right? Investing in your body can happen through, and I'm sure you're more of an expert on this than me, is eating right. You are what you become.
Correct.
You know, literally, the food that you put in gets broken down in your body, and then it's transferred and transformed into fibers and protein and fat and carbs and sugar, and also builds the building blocks that are the cells of your body.
Correct.
So the healthier you eat, the healthier your body is internally. Right? And while we know not too much about what's going on internally, we know that whatever we eat becomes us.
Correct.
So it's extremely important, to eat extremely healthy. The second one is obviously to really invest in your body for what it is, which is it's an energy source, and energy can't be produced or destroyed. It can only be transferred from one form to another.
Correct.
So our body is constantly changing energy forms, and which affects our mental and emotional states. And our body was also made for movement. So we need to find some kind of movement in our body in order to fulfill its energy requirements. So that could be yoga, that could be swimming, that could be lifting heavy weights, that could be Pilates, that could be whatever works for you.
Whatever works. This is the most important concept, because I have seen people chase the things that others are doing. For example, if Shilpa Shetty does yoga, does mindfulness, I will chase that. But the people do not understand that they must do what they actually enjoy.
Absolutely.
Am I right?
Absolutely. And that was going to be my next point, that the thing is, not everything works for everybody.
Correct.
And when for example, I had a back injury a few years ago, I was not allowed to work out. I was only allowed to do swimming and Pilates. And I was very impatient, which I am as a person, I guess, to get back into working out. But I started to surrender to that process, and I absolutely loved it and championed it so beautifully that I saw myself and my back muscles becoming stronger even without any kind of weightlifting or any other form of exercise, which now helped me. I shouldn't be, and probably if you go see my spinal MRI, doctors wouldn't recommend it, but for the past 4 years I've been running 100 kilometers every month, sometimes 150 kilometers. I do a lot of excessive intense treks, etc. as well, but that's because I was patient and I surrendered, and that's what worked for me. And we all need to find what works for our body, what we enjoy, what we feel is rewarding to us when it comes to our physical body, and investment of how we want to utilize that 1 hour of workout, so to speak, if it's that 1 hour.
Yeah, I got it.
The third thing with physical investment is rest. We all really underestimate rest, and we think rest is sleep, but rest is not sleep. Sleep is one form of resting. Resting is now, if you read a lot of studies that are being done, especially by the Huberman Lab, they are saying that...
You're talking about Andrew Huberman, right?
Andrew Huberman, yeah, absolutely. Love him, and I follow him very intently. He said that when you are trying to build a new skill or you're trying to up your skill set, the neuroplasticity in your brain, which helps you maybe change, grow, adapt, evolve, the time that it starts expanding and the neural network starts building and the muscle memory starts getting created in that body part only happens in the rest period between the activity period and not while you're doing the activity, which is what we assume.
Interesting.
So rest means 45 seconds rest between 2 reps of your 15 kg dumbbells or whatever. And that 15 seconds not thinking about anything else. Just being and just letting your brain develop that neuroplasticity. So I think that rest period is extremely important for a body. And the last one is sleep. This generation is sleeping very, I would say, disruptively.
Correct.
And I know a lot of people, young, middle-aged and old, even your age people who are not sleeping soundly, so to speak. And again, sleep is such an important tool to give your body as it's the reward you give your body at the end of the day of the hard work, of the mental, emotional, physical drainage that has happened. So I think the fourth one physically would be sleep. Have a good night's sleep. And if you genuinely think that you are not sleeping well for over a week, you must see a doctor. This is so important. People just think, oh, I've not been sleeping well for 2-3 months and it's okay, I'll figure it out. Don't do that. This is one of the first early signs that some degenerative or serious illness or ailment is coming, like getting manifested inside you.
Interesting. So this is another disclaimer for the viewers that if you're not sleeping properly for a long period of time, see a specialist, see a doctor, or at least try and meditate, calm yourself down before you sleep.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would suggest, just like we are now measuring our calories and measuring our workouts, measure your rest time and measure your sleep time. This is so extremely important. There are more than enough apps. Please utilize them. We utilize them to just keep scrolling and producing unnecessary dopamine in our heads. Please don't do that. Rather than that, utilize apps that are meant to help you invest in your physical body and get the most of it.
Interesting, correct. So you previously talked about, this is the last question about your personal journey.
Yeah.
You previously talked about an injury and you being impatient.
Yeah.
But then meditation as a concept also requires patience. You sit there doing nothing, focus on your breathing and try not to wander off to other thoughts or other beings. How do you develop the patience? How did you develop the patience?
So first thing I want to tell everybody, meditation is an acquired skill. There are lots of skills that you thought you will not have in your early life and you now seem to very easily have them. And I will say this especially to your listeners who do complex and compound movements in their workouts. You wouldn't have imagined or thought you would be able to do a thruster of 50 kgs or a bench press of 80 kgs or maybe a deadlift of 100 plus kgs. But the reason you're able to do it is because it's acquired skill. And so is meditation. It is simply an acquired skill, right? And it's also called the art of being and doing nothing. So you just sit in a place. You try to keep this place extremely free of external distractions. And I tell people, if you don't know what you're doing in meditation to begin with, just go to your happy place. Just sit down and think of your happy place. What is your happy place? Is it walking in the park? Is it chilling with your parents? Is it holding your partner? What is it? Go to your happy place and just sit there and think about it. And start breathing consciously. We're always breathing, right? We're not even aware about it. But conscious breathing automatically brings in attention to the present moment. So I think I didn't develop patience with it or something like that. But I feel actually I was able to do it because I just sat down one day and I said, you know what, let's see what this huss and fuss is about. And I experiment a lot on myself with a lot of different types of mindfulness practices. I think I've experimented at least 1,000 plus, and I have coached and I'm coaching over 100 plus meditation and mindfulness practices. So I've done several experiments on myself, and meditation was one such. So I'll sit for 5 minutes and I will see what happens.
So preach before you practice, basically.
I think the entire concept of mindfulness is exactly that. If you hear anybody, whether it's a human or a Sadguru, they all say, don't believe my words. Do it on yourself, practice it on yourself. And I truly believe that. I can't explain meditation to people in words because the experience is so subjective. There's this standard protocol and procedure somewhat, but usually everybody has their own experiences. And one thing that I would like to say is, when you're meditating, don't try to not think about anything. I think we learn that, and I think there's a huge misunderstanding about it. Just observe the thought that comes. Don't judge it. Know that it's come into your mind, and just watch it, because it'll fade away by itself if you don't keep adding more conscious thoughts to it. And that's actually what meditation is. It's just observing what bodily sensations are you feeling, what thoughts are arising, and when a thought arises, an emotion arises. So what is that emotion? Where are you feeling that emotion in your body? And then watch it go away without saying, okay, now this thought's coming about, now I want to do this about it, now I want to do that about it. So don't do that. I think that's the only disclaimer I would give about meditation.
Interesting.
And then you will very much be aware. You'll be aware what's going on inside you. That's it.
So this concept is basically like meditation is a skill where you don't try to think nothing.
Yes.
Just sit and observe your thoughts.
Yeah, so you know how, like right now, people watching this video are observing us? Meditation is observing yourself. That's it. Like they are observing my facial expressions changing, the words or the thoughts that are coming out of my mouth and yours. The same thing you do to yourself. That's what meditation is.
So the concept of thoughts, basically what my understanding of it is, for example, don't think of an elephant. All you're thinking about right now is an elephant. Exactly. So let the thought pass away and do not try to think nothing, basically.
Yeah, just be.
Just
be.
These two words are very deep.
Yeah.
Just be.
Just be.
Very important to understand that.
And I think rest is also just be. And this is all, meditation is just be. Just be present. I think the problem is that people are very scared to confront their thoughts and their feelings. And in your previous question, when you asked, how do you inculcate mindfulness, I covered the physical part. But the mental and emotional part is what, if I can, then I can elaborate on. And I can tell you that is what will make you a holistic, so to speak, person.
Now we've learned about what to do and when to do it, but how to do it? Say I wake up in the morning, what do I do next? What does your routine look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and very miraculously, I would say, when I had done a reel about it, it had got like 7,500 views in like a day. It was extremely amazing to receive that kind of love, which is the first thing I do every day. I express gratitude. So the moment I wake up, actually my routine starts from the night before, because at about 10:30 I switch off my internet and I go into DND mode, silent DND mode. And the next morning when I wake up, I look at the clock to see the time to wake up, not my phone, because apparently the light from the phone, if you see that first thing in your morning, it causes your eyes to go into blindness at a much earlier age than it should.
So the blue light actually affects your visibility?
Absolutely, it does. And the first thing in the morning, it does more, because you're just waking up from that deep sound closing of your eyes in rest mode. So the first one is I express gratitude. It takes me 3 to 4 minutes. I say 5 things I'm grateful for every day. So yesterday, what I was grateful for, it could be the pav bhaji that I ate. It could be my killer workout. It could be that someone told me that I look really pretty. It could be that I had a amazing walk. Or it could be that my mom gave me a huge hug and said that she's proud of me.
So small things in life.
Small, and that's what it'll all come down to.
Exactly.
When you think about that, it'll come down to
the
these
compounding
little things. and 5 things I'm grateful for in a general basis, like being alive, having a home, a roof, food, parents, family, friends, work. So I would say, and you could add a little bit more details into them. So I think I just do 10 things, 5 of yesterday and 5 in general. That's the first thing I do. In fact, funnily enough, when I'm in bed doing my gratitude, I start doing mobility stretches for my lower body. So I do like a little bit of a hip bridge, and for my upper body, I stretch my arms and everything. I then go into the bathroom, I brush and I use the bathroom, and I have 50 affirmations stuck on my mirror and in front of my toilet. And I say them out loud every day while I'm brushing and while I'm on the pot. I don't ask everybody to do 50. It's a lot. Might take up time. I mean, it doesn't take me more than 3 minutes now, but still.
Starting small, basically.
Start small. Say 10 affirmations. I think the first affirmation everybody, especially in today's generation, needs to say is, I am enough. Because we're always feeling insecure about something we are not or we don't have. The second one is, I deserve love. That's also something all of us are struggling with today. The third one could be, I am confident, I am successful, I am present in each moment, I am abundant in all aspects of my life, I am healthier every day, I am independent and self-sufficient, I am motivated and focused, and I'm an inspiration. So I think these 10 are enough. And it didn't even take me 30 seconds.
Correct.
So I think these 10 are enough, and I feel customize this, guys. You might feel you're impatient. So I worked on this for a long time by telling myself, I am patient. I bring patience to the situation that requires it. And that really helped me be a lot more patient than I have ever been. So customize it to what are your challenges right now in your life. After this, I go and I sit with my dog and I pet him and I sit in the shade but of an open area so that I can get the sunlight, the vitamin D from the sunlight, so to speak, and all the relevant benefits that sunlight has. And petting my dog helps me release cortisol, which is a stress relieving hormone. And I do that for like 2-3 minutes. And then I meditate. I also again meditate in the shade with my eyes closed and cross-legged. You could do it however it's comfortable to you. There's more than enough literature on different ways of doing it. I change up my meditation every single day. This is very important. Sometimes I just do 5 minutes and I change my breath work. Sometimes I do 10 minutes and I use normal breath. Sometimes I do there are different types of meditation. So 4, 4, 4, 4, 7, 6, 7, 8. So whatever works for you, that's what I do. And I end my meditation with 2 minutes of manifestation or visualization. This really helps me. You could visualize how your day was. Day's going to be like,
Correct.
And you could also visualize what your life can be like. You could do it whatever way you want. After that, I switch on my internet. I keep it on silent.
Okay, so the internet, the online part starts now. So all of this that Aarti has done is without the internet, without the use of any devices.
Not
just
at all.
Self.
That's all.
Perfect. Now you switch on the internet?
Now I switch on the internet and I only look at my work messages, emails, WhatsApp. That's it.
So not even social media at this point?
No, not at all in the morning. I don't do that. After I've replied to it and kind of set the schedule for my day and I know what's going to happen, I sit down for 20 minutes and read. And I read anything and everything under the sun. And this is really, really important to feed your mental health by acquiring knowledge. Because your brain is always looking, when it's free, they say it's a devil's workshop. And that's why it's good to feed in something positive, something that you could learn from. And that's what I do. Then I get into my workout. After my workout, I look at my social media.
Okay.
So that's my routine actually.
Okay, so around what time do you start using social media?
Post noon.
Post noon, okay, so that's quite a good amount of the day without devices.
Yeah, about
pretty
3.5, 4 hours.
Interesting. So now that we've talked about all of the meditations, the mental piece, the physical part of mindfulness, what about the mental and emotional part? Emotional part, because all of us are feeling emotions at any given point, grief, sadness, anger. How to capture mindfulness with emotions and mental mindfulness, basically.
So, mental and emotional health is very separate. We can put it in the same basket. But to me, mental health is simply using your cognitive skills. So, which is what I said earlier, that you must read. I think that harboring this nature that you're a curious person and you want to keep learning and you're open to diverse perspectives, even if they are completely opposite to yours, I think that's a very healthy mental attitude to have. I think another thing that's also very important when it comes to mental health is realizing when you're feeling fatigued, tired, and anxious, and don't let it get to the point where you've burnt out. You can have a burnout in workouts also, guys. You just don't have a burnout when you are working. So everybody should know that you can have a burnout in any aspect of your life. You can even burn out when you've been too overly emotional for a period of time. Your system just kind of gives up.
Correct.
And you go into extreme modes of feeling numb and detached, and that's very extreme. So I think always journaling your mental state of mind at the end of the day, just 3 minutes would be great. And in that 3 minutes, you know what? Talk about more the challenging parts of your day, the triggers of the day, the things that you felt uncomfortable with or that were causing you some kind of stress or anxiety. And over a period of time, do it every day, alternative day, weekends, however much time you have. But you will realize that if you keep reading back, or you will actually remember, you've written the word stress so many times, you've written the word anxiety so many times, but what have you done about it? Right? So mental health is not just pouring down your state of mind and the triggers and challenges you face, but also recognizing patterns of good or bad things within you so that you can work on them later. Like, are you someone who is always anxiety stricken when your boss is walking towards you? So what does that mean? What is that telling you? That maybe you have some non-tangible tension between your boss and you, and there's something fundamentally not collaborative about your relationship, and how do you want to fix that? So answering more bigger questions when you do, kind of, I would say a mental evaluation of yourself, just like a home remedy for people
Correct.
who are feeling very stressed and anxious and overworked. Emotional health. This is all the rage right now. Everybody wants to know what's happening. And the first thing to understand about emotional health is all emotions arise after a thought. Like Sam Harris says, and I think it's entirely true. You're not just sitting and feeling happy. There's something that has happened a few moments or hours ago, and that thought has arisen in your mind, and you're like smiling.
That's making you happy, correct.
Right. You're not sitting and you just suddenly start getting a panic attack. It's because the thoughts are leading you to such extreme emotional states that you've gone into this space. So the first thing to know is all emotions arise from thought. And what we need to do as people is sit with that feeling. Feel all them feels, as I would like to tell everybody, because we avoid that. We avoid uncomfortable feelings, we avoid distress, we avoid embarrassment and shame and grief and sadness and anger. We just avoid it.
Just push it down somewhere in the hole.
We abuse other things such as food and sex and porn and getting too much into our work and running, going for like a crazy whimsical long run to not feel them feels. So the first thing I want to advise people is sit with your feelings. So if you want to know the biological way the body works, there's a thought, then there's an emotion. How do we know we are feeling something? We feel physical sensations in our body. And I'll give you some examples. If unfortunately, let's say somebody knows someone who has passed away, the moment you remember that person, you feel this sinking feeling in your heart, your chest. Sometimes when you've not done your college work and you've been asked to submit it, you get like this bouts of acidity or anxious queasiness in your stomach. Sometimes when you've just been overthinking, your head starts hurting, like there's nothing else you can focus on. So the thing is, every single emotion is decoded in our body by physical sensations, and we don't want to feel those physical sensations, and that is why what happens then, emotion is an energy. We're not transforming it from one form to the other. So it's kind of piling up, piling up, piling up. And then what do? We erupt like a volcano.
Correct.
Or we erupt at periodical times. Like, let's say I've had a bad 3 days and I'm just moving forward without dealing with it, right? So then suddenly you'll say absolutely nothing and I will go off on you. I will go off on my manager.
Being very irritable, basically.
Yeah, so I'll start snapping because the emotion needs to find its headway out. It needs to be processed to something else. It can't simply stay inside your body, right? It's churning into more and more energy. So it's very important to feel all them feels. And the way to do it is definitely through just taking a few moments when something triggering has happened to you. It could be anything, the smallest of things. Even if you just remember your friend who you're not speaking to right now, it's definitely going to harbor some emotions, right?
Definitely.
Like you're sad, or that you miss them, or that you wish you had said something to them, or that you wish you could call them, whatever. Sit with it. Every emotion technically only produces those biochemicals of those emotions in your body for 90 seconds. Nothing more than that. So if you sit with it for those 90 seconds, even lesser, like a few moments, the moment you process it, the moment you sit with it and look at it and accept that feeling just the way that it is without judging it, which is the third part of mindfulness.
Correct.
It's gone off your system. Your brain stops producing those biochemicals because that energy is transferred from one form to another. And then there's a rush of different emotions that you feel. But this is exactly what we need to do for emotional health. Don't be afraid to confront your more scarier and fearful and disappointing and negative emotions. Don't just be like, I'm going to be positive all the time. You cannot be positive.
Cannot be
all the
positive, of
time.
course, yeah.
There are too many internal and external triggers for us to lead balanced, sustainable lives automatically on autopilot. Nobody can do that. So yeah, that would be my advice.
So, Aarti, now that we've talked about all of these things where you sit with your feelings, where you feel your emotions basically, the world right now is seeing a wave, the social media is seeing a wave of this term called stoicism, and under stoicism, the Sigma mentality, the Batman mentality, where you go off grid, you shut your feelings off, you work tirelessly towards your goal. What are your thoughts on this Sigma mentality that people are so often talking about?
I think so. I have to say I agree partially with it, and I'll explain to you what my perspective is very clearly. I completely agree that we sometimes do need to go off the grid to just focus on our own goals. And the reason I think this stoicism also started is because to reduce external triggers so that we can be more focused. So it wasn't like, shove the world aside. It was just leave outside triggers at bay at the minimum so that only your internal workings can be highly activated. So no boss can come and yell at you, no mom can nag you, no boyfriend can break up with you. But then give more energy to you to, rather than focusing and processing those things, to focus on yourself. So I do agree with this part, and I think what the second part of it is, putting your feelings out. I think what it is quintessentially, it's a modern, if I should call it that, again, very amateur way of saying vipassana, because what you're doing is it's impossible that you're not going to feel anything in these 3 months that you go off the grid. You're in fact going to feel a lot more things because you're alone with yourself and your thoughts and your feelings. So I think it is about silently processing them, which is a very healthy way of doing it. That is exactly also what meditation is. But meditation basically is more under a controlled environment, and this is more in a day-to-day life, which is also called open monitoring or awareness, which is the second part of mindfulness. So in a way, I do agree with it. I don't think you should push your feelings down, and I don't think that's literally the translation of it. I think it's more to give rise to it and deal with it in silence, because it's your emotions and you gotta deal with it.
You gotta deal with it.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So, all the so called Batman out there, sit with your emotions, feel your emotions, and observe your thoughts. Aarti, it has been great talking to you today.
Same here.
What
Thank you
is-
so much for having me.
What is the one last piece of advice or one liner that you would like to end our episode on mindfulness today?
I would say live a more mindful life consistently and sustainably so that you can live it for the next 25, 40 years of your life.
Perfect. Thank you for watching the Jaywalking podcast. Today, whatever we talked about was only 30%, 30 to 40% of what mindfulness basically entails. Check out her podcast, Mindfulness with Yogini, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. She is ranked on the 20th number on mindfulness and basically mental health podcasts, and she is ranked 69th on health and fitness podcasts. It's an amazing podcast. I view it all the time. You should go check it out. If you found value in this video, like it and share it with your friends to live a better life. Subscribe to the Jaywalking Show and tune in for the next episode next Friday. Thank you and goodbye.